Is Corey May, and I am hosting Stories from the Stump. As you can see, there's a stump, but as a person of height, this feels a little awkward. But for those of you who are not as tall as I am, you may stand on the stump if you choose to. If your health permits it, it's a prop. There you go. There are quite a few people that I would like to acknowledge to make this happen. First of all, I represent TellersBridge. You will see quite a number of us wearing these shirts. Mine is tie-dyed. The other folks are wearing basic black. Oh, and there's Bill right there wearing another tie-dyed. First of all, in terms of thanking people, we would like to thank the Cedar Rapids Public Library because we are here. Thank you. They have partnered with us, and with the support of their fabulous staff, I'm looking at all these empty chairs for all these people. I think they've run off because they think I'm going to call on them, and I was planning to. We'd also like to thank our supporters. I see a number of very familiar faces. Thank you for showing up. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We have two anonymous donors who each offered us a $5,000 match. This is very important, and I'll get to the financial side of it a little bit later on. David Meyer, Cedar Rapids City Councilor for both financial and public relations support. He has attended our events and also encouraged others to do so. Thank you. Coming from the other county down south, your hospitality is greatly appreciated. I'm an Iowa Citian in Johnson County. Thank you for opening your arms and your heart to me as an Iowa Citian. TellersBridge Gang of Six, the original folks that started this, and our audience, thank you all for showing up. You've given aid and comfort and financial support as well. The entire Storytelling Festival, Cedar Rapids Storytelling Festival, is free and open to the public, but it also isn't without cost. So donate if you can. You can go to our website, TellersBridge.org. It will be in your program. From there, you can click on the donate button. It is bright red. Donate. And you can use the QR code that's also there in the program. It's all around the building as well, and if all else fails, you can find Sue. Please stand up, Sue. You can give her a large quantity of unmarked bills in a greasy paper sack, and she will accept them. The greasy paper sack is more my touch, but she will accept large denomination bills as well. We'd also like to make sure that all that money comes, and it will help us do this again next year, because that's what we want to do, is make storytelling not only accessible but sustainable within our community, reaching out to all parts of Cedar Rapids as well as Lynn County and Johnson County, anyone who wants to show up. And we'd like to do it bigger and better next year. Also, I want to thank the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art and the Cedar Rapids Opera for participating, bringing wonderful events to the festival. Tomorrow there is, Sue? Oh, you were waving at somebody? I thought you wanted to be called on. I have a number of teachers in the audience, and whenever a student raises their hand, we usually call on them. That's customary. Thank you. The Museum of Art has a program tomorrow about work, and then the Cedar Rapids Opera will be performing a dress rehearsal of The Littlest Mermaid upstairs in the auditorium, free and open to the public yet again. Now, we're almost there to our first storyteller, whom I haven't picked yet, but I have an eye on him, or her, as the case may be. Sit up straight. Posture is always wonderful. And we'd like to also thank Iowa Public Radio for public relations support through advertising, bringing us to Talk of Iowa, which we did today, and then recording our showcase as a special edition broadcast. That'll be on Saturday. Now, how great is that? Oh, if you want autographs, Mark Lotta will be back. He was here for Talk of Iowa yesterday, and I'll be around too. So, stories from the Stump. We decided to come up with this idea, again, to make storytelling accessible. Sue will be our timer, and you don't want her to put the hook on you, so your stories need to be from 2 to 5 minutes. 2 to 5 minutes. Repeat after me, 2 to 5 minute stories. Thank you. Oh my goodness. We might have our second storyteller, but right now I want to call somebody that I look up to because I look up to him. Please welcome Sam Black. It's not often that I have to adjust the microphone up for people, but in this particular case, I generally do really look up to him.
Well, thank you.
You don't need a stump.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us here at TellersBridge first ever Storytelling Festival. Thank you. Now, you've heard my name, and you're probably asking yourself, what is this guy's relationship to this organization, and why is he here? I'm here in large part because I love Sue, and the reason why I love Sue is for 5 years, from 2015 to 2020, when I retired, Sue gave me her Sunday evenings to work with a group of folks at the Anchor Center, the Hinsman Center, and the Nelson Center. If you know what those places are, those are state-run Department of Corrections halfway houses for people who are halfway between community and prison. And at the time, I was the administrator for those things there, and wanted to do this thing where people learned to command language. And my mantra to folks was, labels are limiting, language is empowering. And Sue was one of those core people who helped with moving that effort forward. I believe one of the things we accomplished was that we became the only, if not only, we're the first corrections agency outside of a prison to charter a formal Toastmaster group. We did that. Game changers. And so, yeah, thank you. So I'm grateful. And then I retired, and then a while ago, Sue came and asked me, hey, would you consider serving on the board of Storytellers? Because it was her Toastmaster project for leadership, advanced leadership, get her DTM, if I'm not mistaken. And so I really wasn't in a position to say, no, I can't do that. After she gave me 5 years of her life on Sunday evenings of all things. So I'm here. I made the mistake of not being able to attend the first meeting of the board. So you know what happens when you're not at the meeting, right? Yeah, you become president. It's like the neighborhood association. So that's my story, and that's my situation here. Very grateful for Sue and the Gang of Six and the work they've done here. Certainly hope that you enjoy this. You're here because you enjoy storytelling. I think this is going to be a weekend to remember. And I want you to keep in mind that this is ground floor, first ever, and the opportunity to build and be better than anything that takes place this weekend going forward. So thank you and welcome.
Sam Black, again, a man of stature whom I look up to. Or rather, should I say, for the teachers out there, to whom I look up. Up to whom I look. There we go. Up to whom I look. I'm being grammatically precise. All right. I'm looking for another storyteller. And if you are at all interested, just raise your hand and I will call on you. I will beckon you. And then when you come up here, introduce yourself and tell your story. Again, 2 to 5 minutes. Ma'am, would you like for me to bring the microphone to you? Okay, thank you very much. I will move the stump out of the way.
I decided I wanted to go first to get it over with. And because I won't have to measure up to whoever comes after. This is my first time ever doing this. My name is Polly. Polly Hall, and I'm from Cedar Rapids, and I grew up in southern Idaho. I got bucked off a horse a couple of months ago and broke my leg. No, the part about the horse isn't right. But I did break my leg. Anyway, I have a story for you. And my mother was a very, very colorful person. My story is Mom, Aunt Rhea, and the pop cans. When my children were young, living here in Iowa, they would gather up pop cans and turn them in for a nickel. I made the mistake of telling my mom that that's what they were doing. She lived in Idaho. She immediately started gathering up pop cans. She and her sister would go for a walk every evening, gather up all the pop cans they could. I thought, how is she doing that? Because how would I get them from Idaho to Iowa? I didn't think too much about it, though. And in the summer, in June, I took 4 teenagers out to a summer college retreat. And I dropped them off, and then I went to my mom's. She never did anything in a small way. She had gathered so many cans, and in her mind she thought if they were smashed, she could get more fit in to send back to Iowa with me. And so she laid out the pop cans on the ground. Then she and her sister would put a board over them, and then she'd get in her car and zoom up over the board, smash those cans flat. She also had a young person that she got to take a sledgehammer, and on a stump, they would put a pop can and one hit and it was down. So she had spent weeks gathering up pop cans. She still wasn't getting enough. She decided she would start buying them from people she knew. She would contact her friends and say, hey, do you have some pop cans? And some of them would give them to her, and others, she knew they would take them and turn them into recycle by weight. And so she would tell them, I'll give you a penny per can. And she just thought this was going to work out well, since my kids would get 5 cents when they turned them in. Do you know what a wool sack is? A wool sack is large. It's what you put the wool in when you shear sheep. My mother had enough cans to fill 6 wool sacks. Wool sacks are about 8 feet long, and they're pretty big around. They're made of burlap. They were as long as my car. There we were, bungee cording all of these wool sacks on the top of my car. There was more going up than there was going down. And there we were, and driving on I-80 all the way from Idaho to Iowa with cans that I knew were worthless. And I didn't want to hurt her feelings. She'd worked so hard. I just didn't. I knew my husband wouldn't be happy to see me drive up in the driveway, so I drove straight to a recycling center and tossed the cans for them to have. Now the only thing was, I had to stop her from doing this in the future. So I told her that Iowa had enacted a law similar to that in Idaho, and they were not paying 5 cents for pop cans anymore. And that's my story.
Polly Hall, thank you very much. So after 2 storytellers, I think you've got a little bit of a rhythm and a feel for just how this is working. Wow, this is different. Who feels like being the third? There we go. Come on over here. Now, this isn't her fault. I cajoled her and twisted her arm using the powers of persuasion wrapped in this shirt.
That's very good.
All right. I could put you on the stump if you would like.
Stand, no.
I will. No, I won't. Would you like
How
to?
sturdy is this stump?
It's a sturdy stump. I got you.
Thank you.
And your name?
Trisha. And I work here at the library, and it's so great to see everybody today. Thank you so much for coming. I was not planning this, so. I also have a mother who was kind of a character. She actually passed away a year ago, but she was a great storyteller, and she did a lot of crazy things. And so this is one of the stories I actually told at her funeral last year. It's one of my favorite stories about her. I grew up in northwest Iowa, a very small town, Ruthven, Iowa. You're probably not familiar. It's near Okoboji, Spencer. It's about 500 people. My dad was a farmer. My mom had her own cottage business. She made wooden jewelry that she sold all over the country, and she made it in our basement. This story took place when I was a sophomore in high school. I guess small town. Big rivalry between the small towns. This was before all the schools were consolidated together. So we were the Ruthven Ayrshire Rams, and we were going to be playing the Terrell Tigers. So this was in early winter, and this was a big deal. Well, let me preface that by saying the night before the big game, Mom had stayed in the basement working. She had a big order that she needed to work on. Now, she and my dad, they were married, 62 years? This past year, but at that time they'd been married, maybe 20. And she'd work late, he'd also work late, but she came upstairs, and he was already in bed, lights are off. And she comes in and she starts to get undressed, and she turns the light on. And he said, "Oh," the good husband that he said, "Turn the light off, honey." And so she flipped the light off. This was also the time, some of you will probably remember that women wore pantyhose all the time. And she always wore her pantyhose, whether she was wearing jeans or pants or a skirt, church, work, she always had on her pantyhose. Well, because she had bothered my dad, she pulled off her pants and her pantyhose all at once and put them all down. Hopped into bed, went to sleep. The next day arrives, it's Friday, it's big game day, they work, Dad comes home, he's like, "We've got to get to school, it's the big game, there's going to be a huge crowd. Hurry up, Jean, hurry up, Jean." So she runs in, she's looking around, trying to find something to wear. She grabs a pair of pants, pulls on her pants, ready to go. So we all go to school. The doors are locked. They're not letting anybody in. It's very cold outside. And my brother and I are standing there with my mom and dad. And my brother's just kind of fidgeting back and forth when he said, "Somebody's dropped a glove." And my dad reached down. "Oh my God, Jean, it's not a glove. That's your pantyhose." And she was, "Oh, Alan, no, it's not." He's like, "Yes, it is." And he said, "They're going to open the doors." Oh, and she's like, I'll take care of it. So very subtly, among all the people standing around, she reaches down and she starts to tuck the leg of the pantyhose, the foot of the pantyhose, back up her pants. Because of course, what else are you going to do? And the doors open right at 6 o'clock, and this huge throng of people are coming in to watch the big game. And everyone's excited, and everybody knows each other. And she said, "I'm heading to the bathroom. You go get the seats." So Dad heads this way. Well, my brother decides to follow my mom to hang up his coat. And in our school, you would go down a set of stairs, and then you would walk down this very long hall to where the bathrooms were and also the coat racks. So she takes off down the hall. My brother's behind her. And little does she know that the foot has fallen out again. And my brother doesn't know, as he's walking behind her, looking for a hanger, steps on the leg of the pantyhose. Mom doesn't realize it, so she continues to walk. And the pantyhose stretch all down the entire length of the hall until my brother realizes, oh my gosh, and puts his foot up, and the pantyhose go boing and snap all the way back to my mom, who then has to pull them out the rest of the way and then tuck them in her purse and head back to the bathroom and then go to the game. So that's in honor of my beloved mom. She was great. It was a great story. We always enjoyed telling it. And so I hope you enjoyed it.
Our first Stump user. Thank you, Tricia. From Ruthven, was that Lauren Myers' era for where we played basketball? There you go. We have heard of Ruthven Ayrshire. There we go. Sorry, nerd moment here. This is how small Iowa actually is. As a matter of fact, I want to share this because there is a woman in the audience who was a teacher for my older siblings at University High School in Iowa City. So she recognized me because I somehow looked like my older brother, genetics and all. And that's a story right there. This is how we connect with people, through stories. I had no idea that she had taught my older sister and my older brother. So there we go. Next storyteller. Yes, there she is, rock star. Now, there is a coda to that. I texted my older brother and older sister, and my older sister responded immediately talking about what she had done, and she wanted me to relate her best wishes and also to pass on her phone number. I'll do that later. Not for all of you, just for her. Our next storyteller feels like they're going to raise their hand in the next. There we go. All the way in the back. Ma'am, please come on up. I appreciate the fact that you have gotten the customs right. And we are paying all of our storytellers in the currency of applause. So you can be generous with your applause. And what is your name?
My name is Dorothy DeSalzagatis.
Dorothy DeSalzagatis. I will adjust this. Would you like to stand on the stump?
I might fall off.
There you go. Here we go. Hang on just a second.
I shrunk an inch, maybe that's the problem.
Do you shower in hot water?
No,
That'll do it.
I got old.
My eyesight. There we go. This has turned into quite the story problem. That was a joke. Math jokes. Is that good?
Yeah,
Try it.
it's not like I can put I'm not going to put my mouth on it.
You don't have to put your mouth. You want to get a little bit closer though?
Hello. I was going to tell a story that relates to the last name he couldn't say, which is my maiden name, the name I've had most of my life, except for a brief first marriage. I'm now in my second do-over marriage, so that's good. And my last name is DeSalzagatis. Or I could tell a funny story. Which is your choice? Do you want me to tell about being first-generation American or tell a funny story? Which one? Okay. I did not rehearse this, didn't know if I was going to make it today, but I'm going to tell you a story. Journalism was my career soulmate. I fell in love with journalism my junior year in high school. After I ran away from home at the age of 16, I ended up in a different town, a different school. They offered journalism. I took it because there was a girl in the class I wanted to be mean to. We ended up being really good friends, and I found my career soulmate. So I went to college eventually. Being first-generation American, my parents and my family didn't know how to navigate how to get financial aid for college, so it took me a little longer than some people to get to college. But I did end up at college, eventually in Chicago, and got a communications degree, emphasis in PR, or as my cousin's husband said, a BA and BS. But due to the aforementioned first-time marriage, I did not become a full-time journalist until I was out of college for 11 years. And it just was that time, right? So I was living in what I considered to be my hometown, small town in Illinois. And I was the do-everything reporter in this. It was the county seat, I just want you to know that. And at the time, there were 4 newspapers covering this little town. Now there are none. But my Chicago friends were very impressed because I was the Morrison bureau chief. I literally had a closet. It literally was a closet. That was my office in my hometown, right? But I took my job very seriously, not just school board and hospital board and city council, but also feature stories. And I was always ready with my notebook and my pen, the photographers called us scribblers, ready to go at a moment's notice to tell a story, or to take a story down. So one day, I'm fairly new in the job. I'm standing outside of the Chamber of Commerce office waiting for somebody from the Chamber of Commerce to show up for an interview. And the office was in a building that had apartments upstairs. And a woman comes into the building. She's got a really strange look on her face. And she's kind of getting her mail. And she's like, strangest thing just happened to me. Yes, what happened? She's like, I was coming up the street, and this car was just going slowly down the middle of the street. I couldn't quite see who was driving. Must be one of those little old ladies, right? Just really slow, right down the middle of the street. Really weird. She gets her mail. She goes upstairs, and I'm like, I'm a reporter. I'm going to check this out. This could be dangerous. This is Main Street after all, right? So I step outside to see this car, and I don't see a car going slowly down the middle of Main Street. Weird. Went back in and asked her, went to ask her, where was it going? And then I thought, well, I'll just look outside again. And when I looked outside the second time, I realized my little red Honda was no longer parked across the street. And as my friend Gene, who became my neighbor because I ended up moving next to him a couple of years later, said it was like a cartoon where I went, ah! And then went running down the street because I could see my car was parked a couple blocks away, right? So I'm running down there. I thought I was going to solve a crime or save humanity. And here it was, my car, on a windy day. I had no idea Main Street had a slope, by the way. It looked flat to me. It was just windy enough to get that little car going and slowly went down the street. And of course, it had to hit a parked car, right? So Gene, standing there waiting, he's like, yeah, I was wondering what was going on. I thought I'd just stand here until somebody showed up. By the way, I did not write a news story about this. But the officer who did show up to take the accident report gave me crap about that for as long as I covered features, school board, hospital board, city council, and the police beat.
And that was Dolores de Salsa Geddes. I think I got the name right. Dolores de Salsa Geddes?
Oh my gosh, that literally is my sister's name. But I'm Dorothy D'Souza.
Dorothy.
No, it's weird because that happens to me all the time. Nobody knows that I have a sister named Dolores. They call me Dolores.
I'm physic. I'm not psychic. I'm physic. There we go. Dorothy de Salsa Geddes. See, I got the hard part right and messed up the easy part. Our next storyteller appears in the back, the young man with the cap. Now, I just want to point this out to Sam. You remember when we were having a conversation right over there, this young man said, "Oh no, I'm not going to tell a story. I can't even conceive of telling a story." And now, he has been transformed by the amazing power of storytelling. Let me lay hands on you, brother. All right, now, would you like to stand on the stump? Don't get carried away with the height now.
I won't let it go to my head, I promise.
All right, let's adjust this up. And
Okay, can everyone hear me? I don't speak into... My name is Kendrick Sutton. Yeah. Kendrick Sutton, also, I'm an artist, so I go by Spike Dupree, but that will come in the story. I guess if I had to, like, put it to a premise, this one's about, like, more second chances. Yeah, so we'll start back in the day, granted younger than you all, but a little bit back. Give it 10, 15 years. My journey as an artist started actually sophomore year of high school. Me and some friends decided this is the end of the year summer vacation. We decide we want to do a little graffiti. And so we happen to get caught as inexperienced people doing illegal things. And so I get community service. Now, my community service was at a place in Chicago called, I should have mentioned that, from Chicago, but called Connect Force. Now, Connect Force was a public service that helped troubled youths teach art, or I guess I should say hip-hop, the elements of hip-hop, to younger children. Now, if you all don't know, the 4 elements of hip-hop, DJing, emceeing, which would be master of ceremonies, rapping, breakdancing, and graffiti. So my first community service was literally for something I got in trouble for. Fast forward a few years, I enjoy the job, and I happen to move here. No degree in art, but just wanting to learn and do my own thing. I start running around, meeting people at different art shows and stuff as that, and I happen to meet my close friends as of right now, the 237 Collective. And slightly after that, I started doing more art shows and started partnering with the Cedar Rapids Museum of Art. And believe it or not, someone here actually has 2 of my paintings, Mr. David Mayer. This is our first time formally speaking, but yes. And yeah, it's, I guess the message would be if you meet any youths who make bad decisions once or twice, you never know where they may end up within a few years' time. That's it.
Kendrick Sutton. Don't be bashful. Stick up your hand. Oh, you know what? David Mayer. Sorry. David Mayer. Would you like to stand on the stump? There we go. Oh, we've got to extend it. Here we go.
That's okay.
Do you need a hand up?
Sure. Never turn down support. So I also had not a story prepared, but I'm going to say one anyway. And it's going to be a story about the power of sharing your story. Can you hear me okay? Before I moved to Cedar Rapids, I lived in Chicago, and I worked for PepsiCo. And we had a beautiful downtown building, probably 7 floors. And, I was one of the executives in the Chicago office. And many corporations, at least at the time, had employee resource groups, or the acronym ERG. And so these are typically groups that are community-based networking groups for people who perhaps come from a background that don't have much experience working in corporate America. So there's one for women, for gay people, for people of color, maybe from people who are in the military without a degree. And there was one for, I think it was called the Rainbow ERG. And I was not a member of it. At the time, I was probably in my 40s. And I had been out as a gay man for probably 20 years. And I thought, well, things are so much better now. These young kids are fine. People are so much more accepting. There's no reason for me to have to be out at work in part of this ERG group. Well, anyway, they had asked me to give a talk to their group. And I said, sure, I thought that would be fine. I figured there might be like 7 people sitting around a table. And just like today, I hadn't prepared a story. But I walked into the room and there was like 100 people. And it was like, I was on a stage and I was like, oh shoot. I mean, this is a really much more people than I thought. So the story, this is actually wobbly. I don't know if you know. So I feel like I'm going to fall a little bit. Anyway, so I started my story, and I focused on what it was like to be a gay person in the early 90s at work. And I talked about being different and not being able to be my authentic self at work, and not having a mentor. And when I graduated college, I worked for a company called KPMG, which at the time was the largest accounting and consulting firm in the world, quite prestigious to work for. But I was so uncomfortable with pretending to be somebody that I wasn't, I quit. And I took a different job. And when I was telling these stories, I went into a lot more detail. And I caught myself choking up and almost tearing up. And I thought like, oh my God, I have all these unresolved issues, and what am I going to do? And but I really tried to focus on the positive. And I talked about like one story really touched me, and it was when I started at PepsiCo. The first summer, it was June, and the CEO of our Chicago office, this was back in the day we all had voicemails at work, and she left a broadcast message. And she talked about that this was June, and this was Pride Month, and celebrate with PepsiCo, and there's family picnics to go to, and there are parades, and there's events, and all of us are encouraged to celebrate this June. And I remember listening to that message thinking, had my parents worked for a company and heard a message like that, how much easier it would have been for them to understand that being gay is not going to end your life or end your happiness or not allow you to be your authentic self in the workplace. And I was very emotional when I was sharing that part of the story. But I was very thankful for PepsiCo and the culture that they created of bringing your authentic self to work and the importance of that. And I got a nice cheers, did some Q&A, and I was relieved when it was over. But about a week later, as I mentioned, it was a kind of a mid-rise elevator. And I was on the elevator, and there was a woman, and she looked familiar, but I didn't really recognize her, so we just kind of smiled and nodded, and one of those awkward elevator rides when you're with somebody. And she said to me, she said, thank you for presenting at the Rainbow ERG. She said, I'm not gay. I don't have any kids who are gay. But she said, I never realized the struggles that gay people have gone through. And it helped me understand the struggles that other people who are not like me go through every day. And thank you for sharing that story. And I was so touched by that. And it reminds me going forward, we all have stories to share. And we all have stories to tell. And I just think about the stories that were just shared now, like how many laughs we've had and chuckles. And I feel close to people that I don't even really know and I may not ever see again. But it just, thank you for celebrating the Storytellers Festival this week. I am so thankful for TellersBridge for coming up with the concept. Thank you for being here and not only keep sharing your story, but encouraging others to share their stories, especially when those individuals may think that their voice is not strong enough or powerful enough or worthy enough to be spoken. Thank you.
Now I have to follow that. Thanks. Thanks a lot. I'm going to call on Ben Traxel, who is a member of TellersBridge. You are in the passenger seat in my car, and because of that, I'm calling on you. Stump?
No, I think I'll do it down here. Can you adjust that appropriately for me? But I am going to use that a little bit as a prop.
Eyeballing this is never easy from this height.
He's way up there. This is a story like someone else told. I told this as part of the talk I gave at my father's funeral. It's a true story. When I was about 16 or 17, and I was in a hurry to get to baseball practice in town, we lived on a gravel road, which I treated as my own personal dirt track when I ever got to drive on it. My parents didn't want me to do that, and most of the time they didn't know that I did it. My dad would always tell me every morning, if you're driving to school today, drive reasonable, don't get hurt, drive like I'm watching all the time. I said, yeah, Dad, I will. Okay, you bet. So he left early that morning. I don't know where he went. And I had to go to school. And we had a little baseball practice at 4 in the morning. And so there's multiple S curves on the way in town. It's 3.5 miles. And I get down the lane and I hit the first straightaway. And I'm going about 45, 50, getting up to 60. It's an old pickup. But the curves are very sharp and it's loose gravel. And I hit the first set, go over the bridge. We're sliding, throwing rocks. Go up the hill, hit the second set, throw her sideways, and we're going like this, counter steering, throwing gravel everywhere. There's no traffic on this road. I never meet any cars, so it's just great. I did notice that a maintainer had just gone and spread a nice layer of loose gravel over the whole road, which is entertaining if you're ready for it, and I was okay. So I got it going to the last corner, and it's a real sharp, nearly square corner, but it's banked really nice. And I'm going into it, and just as I'm going into it, battling it, I hit a big clump of grass that the maintainer threw out in the road, and it knocks me. I'm going along, and it knocks me clear off one whole lane off the thing. And so I give it more gas, and I push the front end into the middle more, but I'm almost sideways going around the corner, so I'm taking up more than my 2 lanes. And I meet a car. I never meet a car on this road. It's ridiculous. And what's he doing here anyway? Nobody drives on this road. And I went into slow motion like happens when I've been riding with people that have wrecked. I haven't wrecked myself, but I did have with other people. Everything was slow motion. All of a sudden, the car was there. I was pushing the front end into the middle of the corner as hard as I could, counter steering. My foot was all the way on the gas, feathering the wheel to try to get myself to take up as little room as possible, battling it. And the car is meeting me, and I'm looking at it. It's a great big car. What the heck? And he's over, thank goodness. And then I notice partway through the corner, it moves over a little more to give me some room. I said, great. Well, that's good. At least they're paying attention. And then I'm battling it, and then they're waving. I'm sorry. I don't have time to wave. I'm busy. Trying not to die. And I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking, God, if I wreck, I'm really going to be embarrassed. Mom and Dad are really going to be mad at me, even worse. And I'm probably going to die and not get to go to baseball practice today. And I'm really sweating it, battling this out. And finally, we get past each other without hitting each other somehow. And I'm going on down this way and straightening out. Oh, thank God. And I grab the next gear up, out of third gear into fourth, so I don't have to accelerate as hard. And I'm relaxing. And I think, that was Dad. Oh, my God. I'm in a lot of trouble. It was a really long day. I went to baseball practice and everything, and we didn't have cell phones in those days, and I never called the school unless something was really bad. So I got home that night, and I walk in, like, trying to play cool, like nothing's wrong. Hi, guys, what's up? And Mom gives me the look. You're really in trouble, look. And Dad looks up at me. You could have waved. And then he grounded me for a week. Back to you, Corey.
Thank you very much, Ben. Our next storyteller will appear from the ether right about now. Raise your hand. Thank you. Come on up, please. I've got 2 questions.
I'm not standing on your wobbly stone.
All right, that was only one left. What's your name?
Mindy Krukenberg.
You have the mic, Mindy.
Thank you. Hello, can everybody hear me? Perfect. I have 2 sons, and when my baby boy was 2.5 years old, we met someone named Cynthia. Cynthia came to our house because she was an early childhood special ed teacher, and she worked for Grantwood AEA at the time. And she played with my son, and afterwards I said, what do you think? And she said, well, I can't diagnose anything. And I expressed that I understood that, but since she was a teacher, I respected her opinion and wanted to hear her thoughts. And she said, I think he has PDD. And I said, I don't know what that means. And she said, pervasive developmental disorder. And I said, I still don't know what that means. And she said, it's on the autism spectrum. And that's when I felt like someone punched me in the gut. As you described, like in the movies, you hear the muffled voices, everything seems far away. And when I kind of came to, I said, now what do we do? And she said, well, we get him in school. And so my son started school when he was 2.5 years old. After that conversation with Cynthia, I went into a funk for a few days. I wouldn't call it a depression. What probably happened was I was experiencing grief because I was thinking about all the things that Nick would never be able to do. He'll never fall in love. He'll never go to college. My point of reference for autism in those days was that I had seen the movie Rain Man. That was it. And so I thought that was what Nick would become. And I wouldn't be able to hug my boy without him being skittish. And my heart was broken. And so probably about 3 days later, my then husband, now very good friend, said, Mindy, you know Nick better than anybody. And you know that he loves you. And he hasn't changed. Nothing, absolutely nothing has changed. Except now we have this word. and we know where to look for resources. And that was exactly what I needed to shift the way that I was viewing everything, snap me out of my reverie, if you will. I would love to tell you about all of the amazing educators he had over the years, and the ARC of East Central Iowa. Hopefully you're familiar with that organization as well, but I can't because 5 minutes, you know. What I would like you to know is that Nick is 26 years old, and he's living his best life. Yes, absolutely. A round of applause. He goes to ARC Dayhab 5 days a week. He probably knows the corridor better than I do. He comes to the library all the time. I have former students. I was a teacher also. I have former students that'll message me on Facebook and say, hey, I saw Nick at Target. Cool. I had no idea what he was doing today. He lives in a group home. He's so happy. I see him at least once a week because I can't go any longer without his amazing hugs. He's the best hugger I've ever met. And last summer, when he was playing Special Olympics softball, I went down to Des Moines to watch him. And as it happens, on his block, there are several group homes. 2 houses down, there's a house full of women, as a matter of fact. And so when they were playing softball, and I was sitting by Nick, and I saw him watching Lexi, and I should explain that my son is not very verbal. But I said, are you watching Lexi? Lexi. Is Lexi your friend or your girlfriend? Girlfriend. Oh, okay. And so what you said earlier about limits, labels being limiting, yes, always assume the best. And my son inspires me every day, and now I hope that he inspires you as well. Thank you.
Mindy Kruckerberg. Wow. For those of you who are on the fence, I hope you're starting to feel a little bit of this is how it goes. And if you're not feeling bashful, I would love to see hands. Here we go. Come on up. We have an inspired storyteller. There's nothing wrong with short people.
And I'm always out of balance, so I can't be on anything.
I'm not going to put you on the stump.
Okay.
I'll put you on the hot seat, but I won't put you on the stump.
That's fine.
And that's about eye level. Let me drop that a little bit.
I've got a loud teacher voice.
Oh.
Yes, I do. And it's stayed with me even in retirement, so I have to be careful.
What's your name?
My name is Lynn Swanson, and I've been carrying a story within me for probably 20 years, although I don't quite remember that. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm kind of used to listening to The Moth on YouTube University because I have to relearn a lot of things. So about 20 years ago, I suffered from high altitude sickness when I would go visit my children who wanted to live up in the Rocky Mountains and the humpback. So every time I'd go up to those altitudes, the oxygen level wasn't very good for me, and I was likely to pass out. And that was kind of my body wisdom. This is kind of a body wisdom story because my body was telling me something's not right with you. And I kept wanting to go out over the last 20 years to visit my grandchildren. And I went to their home and we tried to drive the 12 hours straight because we thought we were young enough to handle it, but I was really tired, and so I go, I'm going down to their guest room and I am going to fall asleep. I know I am. So I go down and I fall asleep in their additional guest room, and I laid down and I was pretty out, and all of a sudden I woke up. And like most humans, I went into the restroom, just kind of like walking off into the restroom, you know? And apparently something in my body decided to go haywire. So it felt like lightning came out of the ceiling and hit me in the head and knocked me down. And I think it's somewhere in my brain said, I must be lacking oxygen or something. Something hit me. And I go, well, now I'm on the floor and my family's upstairs and doesn't know that I've had, I guess they call it Lucanar stroke. And I'm missing some oxygen from my brain and something is going haywire and I've got to listen to my body wisdom. So in my past work history, I was a chaplain for a time at U of I hospitals, and I know a lot of medical jargon. So I tell myself, okay, so I'm down on the floor. Now I'm going to crawl where I can get to see family, and I crawl up the stairs, and they were steep stairs, but I just go, I'm going to make it up there. And I yell out, aspirin. I said to my husband, doctor. And they looked at me, and we're out in the humpback in the Rockies, and we don't have ambulance service. And I go, aspirin. And my daughter looks at me, Mom, you're joking around again, aren't you? And I go, no. And I plop down and go, doctor, aspirin. And I was holding out my hand thinking something is going to happen here if you don't listen to me. And it was hard for me to get it out that I had to have help. And my family knows that I joke around about being a stand-up comedian, so this doesn't help my situation at all. And when you lose some parts of your brain, even though people look at you, even the doctor would look at me and want to hear the medical narrative, you know, it's kind of hard for them to believe. If you look at me, and I'm a master's degree plus almost doctorate person, but when you have a brain injury, it changes your personality too. So I had to convince my family to get me somewhere. My husband finally caught on, and we drove to an urgent care. But if you're a person of a certain age and you're over, like let's say over 65 or more, they don't want to see you at urgent care. They go, we're going to call ahead. You need to go to the emergency room. So finally I get a neurologist and they tell me what happened. And my life changed a great deal. And people often, when they look at someone with a brain injury, they can make a lot of, I'm in a subculture now of brain injured people who don't look any different, which is kind of in my favor. But if I was right after the stroke, I was supposed to attend physical therapy because the stroke left me with 25% on my left hand and 65% on my right. So they were going to work on that and get me back to where that could be more normal. It got back to about 45%, but it took a lot of physical therapy to do that. So my brain wasn't telling those parts of my body what to do, and sometimes it still doesn't, and I get confused about things, and to tell people that I'm confused or I used to be a good speller and could write lots of papers on all kinds of theological studies and what have you not. I can't barely spell sometimes. And when I know a letter or I know a word, I leave out 2 or 3 letters. It's just something happened in that part of my brain that I accept fully. And I'm not tearful about it because I've carried the story a long time. And I want you to know that I am so appreciative of life and for your ability to be able to sit and listen and empathize with me, who is a brain injured person. And it's one of those things where I just feel so glad to be alive. So
Thank you very much. We have a dignitary in the house. We have Her Honor the Mayor, Tiffany O'Donnell. Please welcome her to our Stump.
It's good to see you. I'm joined by fellow dignitary, City Councilmember David Meyer, too, in the front row. So thank you. Thank you for the invitation to be here tonight. I don't know about you, but who's ready for the Ken Burns, the new documentary coming out in November on the Revolution? Oh my gosh, cannot wait. We need to have some kind of party for that, or like a book club or viewing club or something. Anyway, I'm listening. I'm just devouring anything I can find that's about that. And I was listening to a podcast of him the other day, and this was something that he said, and I think it's so Ken Burns to say. I don't know if he attributes it to someone else or it's him. We'll just give it to him today. But he had said, you can rarely change a person's mind by arguing with them, but you can when you tell them a story. And it's so true. I mean, the power of storytelling, no matter what the forum, what the venue, what a tremendous gift it is, and what a tremendous opportunity for us to come together in such a beautiful place, this oasis here in the heart of our city, and to have such attentive and, as we just heard, empathetic listeners cheering each other on. So it's a privilege to be here on behalf of a grateful city to read this proclamation for this event. Whereas the City of Cedar Rapids recognizes the power of storytelling as a timeless tradition that connects people, cultures, and generations, and serves as a vibrant vehicle for sharing personal experiences, wisdom, and imagination. And whereas storytelling is an essential part of our shared human experience, fostering understanding, unity, and creative expression across our diverse community. And whereas the first annual Cedar Rapids Storytelling Festival provides an opportunity for residents and visitors alike to engage with captivating tales, local folklore, and imaginative narratives from storytellers near and far. And whereas this festival offers a platform for both seasoned and emerging artists to celebrate their craft, nurturing the arts and enriching our cultural landscape. And whereas the City of Cedar Rapids encourages everyone to participate in this celebration by attending performances, workshops, and storytelling events that highlight the importance of preserving the art of oral storytelling. And whereas the storytelling tradition promotes creativity, critical thinking, empathy, and connection, making it an essential part of community building and individual growth. Now, therefore, I, Tiffany O'Donnell, Mayor of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, do hereby recognize October 1st through October 4th, 2025, as Cedar Rapids Storytelling Festival Days, and encourage residents to celebrate the power of storytelling, honor the storytellers, and to take part in this special event that's fostering connection, creativity, and joy. Thank you. This is for you.
May we have a photo op? May I get TellersBridge up here for a photo op? All the people of TellersBridge, please, because we need a photo op. Please.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. That's so kind of you.
So someone needs to be the responsible photographer.
Oh,
Gary, come on up.
Look at all the storytellers. Should we move away from the microphone?
Sue, would you hold on to that?
I will.
Had a very brief photo op right there. Now, excuse me, I had my whole Barry White on for a moment. I'm feeling a story coming out from someone right here, and if you feel so inclined, ma'am, please come forward. that's still high. Good Lord.
That's good.
What we will need is your name.
Melody.
The mic is yours.
Hi. A number of years ago, my husband and I and two other couples were in Paris. We took a train north to Rouen. We were going to travel around the north part of France and then go across the English Channel to England. But on the train ride there, I started feeling a tremendous pressure in my heart or in my chest. And so by the time we got to Rouen, I knew that I needed to go to the hospital. We got a taxi, and my husband and I went there, and I was placed in a hospital room after an extensive interview by 3 cardiologists. One had been trained in Cleveland, Ohio, very handsome, spoke excellent English. So I was in good hands. It was a teaching hospital. So I was there a day and a half. They were doing a number of tests, but on the second afternoon, they came in and said, we want to do a stress test. So they had me come just as I was, except I could put on my tennis shoes. So I had my hospital gown, my underpants, my tennis shoes, and I'm walking down. I have an IV still in one arm to the stress test place. So they managed to get the IV out, and I go in this room, and there are baskets of bras. And this French woman, of course, is saying, what size, in French, and she's just having a lot of, I don't know what she was saying exactly. I knew she was asking the size of the bra, but I did not know what it would be in French. And so she finally did this Gallic shrug of woof and said, she gave me a gold lame bra to wear. It fit perfectly. So I'm there in my underpants, my tennis shoes, and my gold lame bra. I'm doing the stress test. And so I get done with that, and the doctor comes to me and says, it seems you have a lethal infection in the sac of your heart. You need to rest for 3 days and then go live a normal life. And my friend Connie said to me when I told her about this, I've always wanted to live a normal life. And you got a prescription for it.
That would be Melody. I need another storyteller, and if you are feeling so moved, rise up. I'm going to call one of the Gang of Six, Mark Latta, to the microphone. Mark, have at it.
Thank you, Corey. I'm 17 years old. And I've been dating Tina for about 3 months now. Now, at 17, I know the best thing to do is to get in with your girlfriend's parents. Really make them like you. So when she breaks up with you, it's like, whatever happened to that nice Mark Latta boy? You know, like you're on the hook now. If you can just win over the parents, and I've won over Tina's parents. I know this because they invite me to go to their camping site with them. Now, they've got a full-on camper, you know, I'm like tent camping. So we go, and the parents' names are Betty and Frank. Betty and Frank, Tina's parents. Frank gets sick. Like, this was pre-COVID, so, we weren't too worried about it, but, just kind of the flu. And he's coughing and hacking the whole time. He's like, right? Tina comes to me and she's like, hey, my dad's really sick. Can you grill the steaks tonight? I can definitely grill the steaks. Like, my dad taught me how to grill steaks. And I am 17 years old. I already know everything I'm ever going to need to know anyhow. Right? Duh. So my dad taught me how to grill steaks. Like, you put them on the grill, and then we have a gas grill, and you 5 minutes this side, 5 minutes that side. Works out perfect every single time. So I know how to do this. No problem. So Betty brings out the steaks. And I'm looking at these. And they don't look like the typical Hy-Vee steaks that I have, right? They're like, mine are like this. Like, these are brontosaurus steaks, right? They didn't come out of a cow. They're like this thick. I know how to do this, right? If 5 minutes per side is good for a steak this thick, then, and it's triple the size, 15 minutes, right? Each side is how you do it. Smart, right? I'm no dummy. So I put the steaks on the grill. And it's a charcoal grill. It's not a gas grill. And I've never cooked on charcoal before. You're doing great. You're fine. So I put the steaks on, and Frank's there, and he's giving me advice, right? He's leaning over me, and he's coughing on me, and he's like, those have been on for a while. Don't you think you should flip them over? I'm like, I got this, Frank. I got this, right? I want to say, Frank, go away and stop coughing on me, but I don't, because I want to win him over. I want him to stay on my side. 15 minutes go by. I look at them. They don't look done to me. So I put them on for another 5 minutes. Still don't look done, but I'm like, they've been on for 20 minutes. Let me flip them over. Cook them for another 20 minutes. I set a timer, right? And Frank, the whole time, Frank's, don't you think you should take those steaks off? I'm like, no, they're fine. Don't worry about it. How do you like yours? He's like, I like mine, rare. I'm like, oh, this will be perfect. They'll be perfect. 45 minutes later, we take the steaks off. I guess they're done. And Tina and her mom, Betty, have already got all the sides together, right? Because it took 45 minutes to get these steaks done. And we carry the brontosaurus steaks into the house or into the camper, and we're all sitting at the table. And I go to cut into my steak. I go to cut into my steak. I go to cut into my steak, and it's like shoe leather. Meanwhile, Frank's already eaten half of his. Like, he wolfed it down. And the girls are being very polite, right? They're like, oh, this is so good. You did such a nice job. Right? Everybody's being polite. About 2 weeks later, Tina dumped me. Now, I cannot say for certain that it was because of the steaks. I cannot say that for certain. It just seems very coincidental to me. And I knew if it wasn't for those steaks, Tina and I would be together still. We'd be married, have a couple kids, right? But the reason that didn't happen, the reason that didn't happen is because the stakes were just too damn high. Corey.
Mark Latta. From parts out west, Williamsburg area, I call up my friend Steve Hinesley. Steve. Adjust as you see fit, sir. Do you want the stump?
No. No one can follow Mark Latta, so I decided to raise my hand. My dad was tough. He grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood. They were poor. And it's not quite 50 years ago, he called me downstairs to teach me how to throw a punch. There's some teachers in the room. My dad wasn't a teacher, but he knew how to throw a punch. And he said, I'm going to teach you how to throw a punch. Hit me in the arm. And so I hit him. And he said, no, that's wrong. Let me show you. And he hit me in the arm that I'm supposed to punch him with. And he said, there, that's how you do it. Do that. And we stood there, and I kept trying, and he kept showing me the right way until I figured it out. Now, I'm telling you that story because my Uncle Vic had asked me, knowing that I was a public speaker, a few years before he passed, if I would do the eulogy at his funeral. And of course, being my favorite uncle, I loved him so much. He was the greatest guy you'd ever met. I said, yeah. And the day came, and I walked into the funeral home, and there was my dad standing there, and he was no longer, this is just about 6 or 7 years ago. He's well into his 70s now. He was no longer that big, tough guy. He was frail. His drinking had gotten the better of him. He was weak. And the people in my family, we weren't huggers, so obviously I went right up and gave him a hug. And being my dad, he said, you gained a little weight, haven't you? I said, well, actually, I've probably gained some weight since the last time you saw me, but recently I've lost some weight. And he said, I think you gained some weight. But that's my dad. And I had something special in store for him. Because I was eulogizing the greatest man I'd ever known. The kindest man I'd ever known. And I got up there and I talked about my uncle had been a forward observer in Vietnam. This isn't just a soldier, this is someone that goes alone out ahead of all the soldiers to find the danger, to find the enemy. He had seen horrors that we can't even imagine. And when he came home from Vietnam, he was the kindest, gentlest, most generous, most giving person you'd ever met. You could know him your whole life and never known he'd seen what he'd seen. And I talked about that. And then without making eye contact, because I didn't want to be too obvious, I said, he was the toughest man I'd ever known. Because there's more than one kind of tough in this world. You can be tough by fighting and beating people up, or you can be tough by overcoming the horrors of life that may befall you and still treat everyone you know with love and dignity. And we left the service and we went to the reception. When my wife and I were driving to the reception, I got a phone call and it was my dad. And he said, I'm not coming to the reception. There's some people there I don't want to see. I knew the truth. So actually, he didn't want them to see him because he'd grown weak and frail and his whole identity was built around being the big tough guy. And then he did something I didn't expect. He got a little emotional. He says, my Uncle Vic, my mom's brother, but they had grown up together and they were like brothers. Complete opposites, but like brothers. And with just, I could have swore he was about to cry. There was just emotion in his voice. And he said, I just want you to know, everything you said about your Uncle Vic is exactly right. And he paused for a moment. And he said, but you have gained a little weight, haven't you? And that was my dad.
Nice. Steve Hinesley. Steve! We've got a little under 40 minutes, and there's still quite a few people in here who have not raised their hands. Fran Scott. Fran, come on up. This is my friend, Fran. In the iridescent shirt. Go for it.
I'm sweating under a hot Chicago sun, and there is no wind in this city to speak of. And as I'm struggling to pull up my 7mm wetsuit that zips up in the back, I am cursing the person who created such a monstrosity. But I know that once I get into Lake Michigan water, that wetsuit is going to feel incredible. I had just completed my open water dives 2 weekends before. I had passed the written exam, and not only that, I had bought all of my own equipment. My mask, my tank, my regulator, my buoyancy control vest, my BC, the forsaken wetsuit that I'm sweating in, and I was excited to make my first dive. My buddy is being encouraging, he's helping me, he gets my tank on my back, and we check each other's equipment, and we start walking towards the water. I'm equally petrified. I had to conquer a lot of fear to become a scuba diver, but I did, and I got my certification, and I have all of this new equipment on, and so I brave walking towards the water. And when we get to the edge of the shore, I hang on to my buddy's shoulder, I get my flippers on, and we do one more check, and we start walking out until we can dive under the surface. Lake Michigan water is frigid, so that wetsuit came in handy very quickly. And we're just kicking our fins, swimming along. We do a couple of checks. I take my mask off and make sure that I can put it back on and empty it of water. We practice a couple buddy breathing things just to make sure that I am safe and I am safe for my buddy in the water. Pretty soon, we're both comfortable, and we're just kind of, I think, going parallel to the shore and having a really good time until all of a sudden, I am kicking really hard, and I'm not going anywhere. But my buddy is quite far ahead of me. I'm like, what the heck? And not only am I not propelling myself forward, I am being dragged backwards. It turns out that I have been caught by a fisherman. His line, his hook, has embedded in my, thank goodness, 7mm wetsuit and not into my skin. But he probably in his boat is imagining he has really caught a fish. Now, keep in mind, at this point in my life, I was not yet aware of my mermaid heritage. And so I was freaking out quite a bit. Luckily, my scuba buddy had a nice sharp knife, and he was able to cut the line. And we immediately surfaced, but the boat was going away at a fast speed because they had been trolling illegally near the shore of Lake Michigan. Now, I'd like to say that this is a metaphor for a love story. You know, I was a fish in the sea. He was a fisherman. But I'd be lying because my buddy was my husband at the time, and he kept me safe. Thank you.
Something, something, the one that got away, something, something. Sorry. You put me in front of a mic, I'm going to give dad jokes. Yeah, here we go. Come on up. And your name?
Cecilia.
Cecilia will introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Cecilia Douglas, and I moved here in February into this area. I live down in Coralville, and I thought I would tell you the story of how I met my husband, my second husband. It was October of 2014, and it was a week before Halloween. Now, I keep a selection of costumes in my closet for all occasions because I'm from Omaha, and we have a costume party every February. I already have it on my calendar for a trip back. But it was Halloween, and at the time, I was a children's librarian. So I was working at the public library, and I had a story time this Friday morning, a week before Halloween. But I also had an invitation to a Halloween party that night at a dive bar. And I was trying to think of how I was going to dress. Well, my story time was about the Tooth Fairy. So I decided I would dress for the occasion. So I took a mother of the bride's dress from the thrift store, cut it short, added extra layers. I sewed my own headband, which had a bow and 2 teeth in it. I went to the Nobbies where they sold everything by gross and got a gross of the treasure chest for teeth. And I made myself a little felt bag shaped like a tooth. It's like, this is perfect. Had a wonderful time doing story time and then headed to the party. And of course at the party you've got everything. You've got zombies, you've got witches, you have a Keystone Cop. And I'm sitting, and a man walks in a skirt. I mean, a kilt. And I see him, and he's walking towards me because I'm the first person between him and the door, and he says, you know, where do I pay my money for this thing? And I said, that looks genuine. And he goes, it is. This is the Douglas clan. This is my family tartan. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then he walked away, went to my roommate, paid his fee, and was moving around the party, as was I, except I couldn't keep my eyes away from him. There was something about this man, I could not figure it all out. And I had invited another man to meet me at the party. So I am shooting pool beyond the pool table, I see this man in his kilt. And then I see the Keystone Cop, skinny little bitch. And she is talking to him, and she is scribbling on a little sheet of paper, and she kisses it, and she puts it in his sporn. And I'm like, ugh. Well, I'm out of luck. 24 hours later, I'm at a bar with friends, going dancing. And as I had walked in, he had spotted me. Made a point of leaving the table, he called it the unfun table, went to the bar to get a fresh drink, and joined my table. Now, of course, I thought this man is going to talk to these women and choose one of them, but he kept asking me to dance. And it was while we were outside getting some fresh air that somebody says, "Have you gotten her digits yet?" So we exchanged numbers, and he invited me to brunch. Now, brunch is not what you usually get invited to. And so well, sure, except I made every excuse in the book. Except I have to teach CCD class in the morning, and then I have mass, and then I have a scheduled bike ride, and then he just went and put his hands up and said, "When you're hungry, call me." I did. We spent 10 lovely years together, and I still have the kilt.
Questions about the fairy costume? All right. Another storyteller. Bill Wims, please come on up. Adjust it as you see fit, sir.
Good, because you need help with this.
I
know. I'm going to give you a lesson later, okay? I don't know what to believe anymore. When I was young, my mother told me that Santa Claus was real. When I got older, she told me he wasn't. One book says Jesus is real. One book says he isn't. They say we're living in the greatest country in the world, but we're murdering each other in the streets. What did they expect when they made us believe in the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny? And then they gave us the nuclear bomb to play with. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle is a lie like all the rest. The astronauts killed the man in the moon. Growing up, took care of the rest. Thank you.
In the shadow of the Indiana football stadium. And it's kind of run down. Well, it's dilapidated. It needs attention. It looks like student housing. And we pull up into the driveway, and it's Friday night, the game's the next day, and the sun is starting to twilight, and there's a couple of guys standing outside, and as we pull up, Chuck opens up his door and gets out, and the two guys jump to their feet, look right at Chuck, and one of them runs in the house, and the other one runs right out to the car and starts bowing and scraping. "Mr. Dillard, you're here. Oh, Mr. Dillard, you're here. This is Chuck. Who the hell is Mr. Dillard? This is my buddy." And here we are in Indiana, and And within the time it takes one guy to come screaming up and start bowing and scraping to Mr. Dillard, that house explodes like wasps coming out of a hive. And like 100 people come out of this little dilapidated old house, and they're, Mr. Dillard, you're here. Oh my God, this is so great. This is the best thing in the whole world. And I look at Chuck and I says, what's going on? And he says, well, I played a little football here. Had no idea. So we get there, and they've got a room for me in this dilapidated old house for the night, and there's lots of people hanging around, and it goes long into the night, and people coming and going and coming and going. And it takes me a while to realize that there's a bunch of people my age, some Chuck's age, and a whole bunch of 18-year-olds. It was a homecoming weekend for Indiana. They're recruiting, and these were all the high school kids that they wanted to come and play for Indiana. And I made mention of this to Chuck, and I said, well, this is fascinating, but why is it that you are here? He says, well, you know, I'm a vice principal at Washington, or his principal, whatever he was this distinguished, educated man, and if you come to Indiana, this is the career you'll have after football. And if you go to Ohio State, well, you'll end up working concrete someplace, doing flat work. So it's a great recruiting tool. The next day we go to the football game, and I'm thinking, yeah, you know, like I go to a Hawkeye game when I was a kid, and I got to sit on the grassy hill in the end zone that doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, and oh, no. I'm essentially a 50-yard line, maybe 15, 20 seats up. I'm surrounded by alumni and dignitaries in every direction. And I had come prepared because I had worn a nice white knit sweater, and it had a very tasteful little Iowa logo on it. Cream color. And it was a whiteout game for Indiana, so everyone's wearing white, and white and red are their colors. And so I'm sitting here, and there'd be a play going on, and I would go, yay, and the play going on, and 75 people around me would yell, yay! And then went back and forth, back and forth. Last seconds of the game, last play of the game, Indiana has the ball. They're on their own 4-yard line. There's 4 seconds left on the clock. They hike the ball, and everyone in the stadium stands up. And as they hike the ball, they run right towards us. And as everyone stands up, they just disappear into the crowd. Now, I know what to do. I start looking at the scoreboard. 3, 2, 1. 0. And I look at opposite end of the football field, and the linesman is not doing this. It's a 4-point game. You either make a touchdown or you lose the game. There is no in between. And I'm looking, and the linesman is not doing this. The linesman is doing this. And I said, we won. We won. We won. We won. And 75 people around me start looking at me going, we won, and they all start jumping up and down yelling, we won, and then they look and they realize I'm the guy with the little Iowa logo here. And they start saying things like, who's the jerk with the Iowa logo? Who's saying that? And I realized it was me. I can never tell you how much I appreciate Chuck taking me back to his home in Indiana, how gracious he was, how he introduced me to his friends, and how embarrassed I am that we won the game. Well, not really.
We have about 18 minutes left, which means we could have anywhere from 3 to 9 stories, depending on who wants to tell them. Anyone? Sue? I'm going to call on you. And I'm leaving the microphone at this height. And the Stump. No, I don't want to time you. Why would I time you? No.
And tall. Look at that. This is what it's like to be tall.
This is the only chance in my life I'll ever be 5'8". Stop. She wasn't much of a dog. As dogs go, she really wasn't much of a dog. And I saw her at the pound, and the only reason why I was attracted to her was that she was the only one that wasn't barking at me. This black dog, part lab, part beagle, heaven only knows how many other things, kind of curled up in her cage, looking kind of depressed. Every other dog was freaking out. But I took her outside and walked her around. She seemed pretty apathetic about me. She did not want me to pet her. She wouldn't make eye contact. So, of course, I took her home. You know, it's sort of like Charlie Brown's Christmas tree. Who else was going to take her? We named her Daisy. She nearly dislocated my shoulder trying to get her to walk up and down the street. She bayed, howled at the top of her lungs every time the alarm in North Liberty went off. So anytime there was a serious thunderstorm or a fire or, you know, the usual time when they blew, she was up in the middle of my bed just howling her heart out. Those things are all forgivable. But we had a real problem with my shoes. Now, in those days, I didn't have a lot of shoes. I think maybe I had 10 pair, and a couple of those were the sorts that you wore to a wedding one time and never wore again. I didn't have a lot of money, and she started chewing just one of a pair. Never two, just one. She would chew one up, and then she would move on to a new pair of shoes. And I know what you're thinking. You know, I'm getting to the point where I've got like, she's done this 7 times. I've got like 3 pairs of shoes left. And you wonder, like, why didn't you do anything about it? Well, I did. I sat her down just like I did the kids and said, quit this, you know, stop doing it. I thought she understood. So then there was the Tuesday morning when she chewed up the last of the shoes, and I needed to go to work. There were no more shoes to put on, and I had to go to Walmart. And thank goodness they did not stop me for no shoes, no shirt. I had a shirt, but no shoes. I went in and bought a pair of shoes and went to work. The other thing that she did was develop a skin allergy, and you'd think a mutt like that, I mean, why would she not be hybridized against everything? But no, she has a skin allergy, and she scratches all the time. And when she does, we have hardwood floors. She sleeps next to my side of the bed, of course, and she scratches. And we have wood floors, so she makes a lot up racket. And there's a husband on the other side of the bed who has to get up at 4 in the morning, and he does not appreciate the racket. And I sleep through everything, except when he goes, Daisy! And that lifts me about 6 inches off the mattress. And I reach over and I scratch her chest until she finally stops itching and goes back to sleep, and so does he. Now, this not much of a dog was with us for 8 years, and there's many more stories to tell, but the most important one to tell you is about the night when she would not stop barking at 2 o'clock in the morning. This was not a normal thing for her. This wasn't the howling. There was no alarm. She's barking, and she's barking, and she's barking, and she wakes me up. Now, I am in the house by myself, with the exception of my older daughter, who's downstairs in her room. And Daisy is barking, and I'm saying, Daisy, quit it. And I'm yelling at her, and I get out of bed, and I walk her down. We have a split entry. I walk her down the steps and show her out the door and say, look, there's nothing out there. There's no squirrel. There's no nothing. Stop barking. She will not stop. And I hear my daughter's voice from downstairs, and she says, there's a man in the house. And you have that moment. It's like, okay, upstairs to the phone, downstairs to the kid. Upstairs to the phone, downstairs to the kid. If I don't go to the phone, nobody will never know we're in trouble. So I go to the phone, and Daisy is still barking her head off. I get to the phone and I get dispatch, and by the time I get a voice on the phone, Sarah, my daughter, is next to me. She said, "He's gone." And it turns out that this young man had been trying doors all over the neighborhood. So there was the sheriff was in town. That was in the days when North Liberty did not have police. So the sheriff was there. He was at the house in 2 minutes. I said to Sarah, "What happened?" And she said, "Well, Daisy woke me up barking, and then I heard the slider in the family room jiggling, and then I heard it open." So she said, "I went to the door and I turned the hall light on, and when I did, there was a man standing at the end of the hall." Now, something about my daughter, which is true to this day, is that when she's frightened, she says a lot of bad words that I don't approve of. But what she did was what she always does, which was to really start to yell and ask him why he was in her house and call him lots of names that her mother would not approve of. And he decided the smart thing was to leave. So I have two heroes. My daughter Sarah with the potty mouth, and Daisy, who wasn't much of a dog. Thank you.
Sue Schmidt, it is 5:49, and if we're going to have another couple of stories, we better get those hands up now. Oh, geez, big finish. Well, okay, I will tell one story, and then we'll wrap it up with all the thanks and acknowledgement to everybody who has participated today. It's no. I'm tall enough as it is, thanks. There's one in every crowd. You know what? I'll fix your little red wagon, Sam Black. It's 1984, and it has been the end of my junior year. Our senior year is somewhere way down the road. It's a summer day, or actually it's a summer night. And what do boys do? And what do girls do on a summer night? They drive around. They scoop the loop, looking for each other. It's a good plan. No, it's a great plan. And it would have worked until one of my classmates decides to moon people on Clinton Street in Iowa City. Not the old Capitol Mall side, the west side, no. But the east side, where the bank and Insler's Leather is over here, and there's an alley. We're laughing because it's absolutely hysterical, the stupid pranks of teenage boys. Remember, teenage boys' brains are not developed, and we're all not fully developed. Which leads us to some bad decision making. We see red and white lights in our rearview mirror, and our driver, who will also remain anonymous, wasn't me. We decide to run. Run. It's a 1975 Dodge Monaco 4-door sedan. 22 feet long, 4,100 pounds of rolling steel. Now, I want to point out something. I grew up in Iowa City, born and raised. And as far as in that time, there wasn't very much diversity. My best friend and I are the only two black men who graduate from Iowa City high schools that year. I lovingly refer to myself as one of the bacon bits in the egg salad of things. I am a bacon bit. I would have been hanging out with the other bacon bit, but I gave him the night off. It was me to be the representation that night. Anyway, we see the red and white flashing lights in our rearview mirror, and our driver decides to punch it and run. Bad decision number 2. The police officer speeds up. He has his revolver out, and he's yelling, "Stop!" He veers and puts his car right in front of us. And all of our eyes are about this big, and our underdeveloped brains are saying, I don't know what we should do. But we all stop. He hops out of the car and barks at us, "Line up! Which one of you morons put his butt outside the window?" It is in this moment that I step forward and say, "Sir, it wasn't me." He recognizes that and responds, "I know, it was a white one." Although we didn't get into any trouble that night, it was in that moment that I also realized that it was okay to be different. All right, I'm going to get off this dadgum stump. But it's getting close to closing time. It's 5 minutes or 6 minutes until the hour. And I want to reiterate, oh, I thought that we were clapping. I want to reiterate all the reasons why we are here today. And I want to thank everybody. Now, the acknowledgement list is going to be long again because I'm going to repeat them. So I want to again thank the Cedar Rapids Public Library for partnering with us and their staff. Their staff has been wonderful. They've been taking videos all afternoon. All of our supporters, all of us who have given money, two anonymous donors who each offered $5,000 match. David Meyer, who got up and told his story. His support has been critical, and we couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much. TellersBridge Gang of Six, you heard most of them tell a story today. Thank you very much. From that round table in South Sioux City, Nebraska, when we first put this together over drinks, very strong cocktails, to today, and soon to be the culmination of a whole bunch of our work on on Saturday. Thank you. Again, the whole festival is free, but it costs to put this on. If you feel so inclined to donate, please do. You can go to TellersBridge.org and hit the donate button, smash that button. You can give money to Sue. She'll take the donations in cash. There's QR codes, any number of ways that you can financially support us. You can show up and volunteer, but also more than anything else, just show up on Saturday. You will be entertained. You will meet so many new people, and you will find yourself among a community of people who are enjoying this as well. I got 2 more points, and then I'm going to let you go. We've heard a lot about storytelling, and we've heard a lot of storytellers, but I want to thank you as audience members, because the other part of storytelling is story listening. You can't have an audience without listeners. You can't be a storyteller without an audience of listeners. That would just be you talking to yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. I want to thank you all for showing up again, and IPR, they made so much of a difference in terms of their support and their willingness to advertise for all of us. I am grateful, I am grateful, I am grateful, I am grateful for all of you who showed up today. We'll see you again on the rest of the program Thursday and definitely on Saturday. There we go. Take care and good evening. Oh, wait. I forgot because I did do my due diligence here. I want to thank Sam Black. Hold all of our applause. Sam Black, Polly Hall, Tricia from the Cedar Rapids Public Library, Dorothy DeSalsa Geddes, Kendrick Sutton, David Meyer, Ben Traxel, Mindy Kruckeberg, Lynn Swanson, Tiffany O'Donnell, our mayor here in Cedar Rapids, Melody, Mark Latta, Steve Hinesley, Fran Scott, Cecilia Douglas, Bill Wems, Jamie Ward, Sue Schmidt, and me. Now, you can clap. And we bring it in under time. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks. Like the steaks? Very well.